Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and my guest today is somebody who comes on about approximately once a year, and her name is Colleen Vanderzyden. She is a violinist with the Erie Philharmonic Orchestra. She does a bunch of other stuff too, but she is a psychic medium. And well, for those of you who've been watching my program since the first year I had it, you might remember the first time she came on, she gave me a deck of cards. LuminescentHealing.com, it says on here. It's a 52-card deck, practical steps to self-realization. And we just thought we'd have her do a really fun episode today where we attempt to go through the pile of cards and, I'll read the affirmations and the practical steps, and then she will say something about them. And by the way, these aren't available anymore. She doesn't manufacture these anymore, but if she did, they'd be a good thing to have, because I do actually pull one out of the deck about once a week or so to see what I need to do. But anyways, Colleen has gotten married since the last time she was on. Do you want to say anything about that? I'll say congratulations.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, it's a good story. I don't know if I told you the story when I saw you
you did.
last.
You told me about how you went about meeting him.
Yeah, so it was all about how I was writing my book, Courageously You, and we became Facebook friends and years before. And then we just started chatting during that time, and because he had written a book called The Quickening, and he started giving me some advice and some suggestions on how to write and finding the right words and everything. And we started chatting more and more and more and more and more, and before you knew it, we were on video, and it was during COVID times. So we were on video for a long time, and we literally did not meet until, gosh, I don't even know, probably 4 months. I always call it after it got more interesting. So about 4 months after that, but it was months after we started really communicating before we physically met. And thank God we hit it off right away. And we had a lot to talk about. His name is Greg Unterberger. He's a therapist, and he's also a spiritual teacher and does workshops and stuff as well. So it's a good match here. It's really amazing. And I was telling you earlier, we started that soul empowerment community, online community to bring people together, to learn about personal and spiritual transformation. It's been awesome.
Oh, good,
So,
good.
yeah.
Can other people join up?
Yes, right now, and we're recording now, so by the time it comes out, the registration time will have closed. But we will reopen the doors, as they call it, and allow people to register probably in September.
Okay.
We'll have another round of people coming in, and the information is on my website, which is ColleenVanderzyden.com.
Okay.
Or BeCourageouslyYou.com. And
Okay.
Vanderzyden is too hard to spell.
Yeah, yeah. I have to think about that. But I know some people by the last name of Stryovsky, and that name your name is okay, but that one I don't even try to spell, because it's not even spelled the way that it sounds.
Having been a teacher for a million years, and all the Polish names, when people struggle with Vanderzyden, I'm like, sound it out, Vanderzy. You got a couple choices with the Zy, but it's ZY, and then Den. It's pretty simple, but people panic because there's too many letters. That's what happens.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's still easier than Stryovsky. But the Joanne Stryovsky and her daughter Mary come on Fresh Perspectives from time to time, and we do, when they come on, we do vegan food demonstrations. So
fun.
Yeah, these cards, we probably ought to get into the cards
talk about
here.
the cards.
These cards are really hard to shuffle because of the size of them. So I don't do a really very good job, but I'm sure it's good enough to pull out the card that I need to see on a certain day. And I know, even with the regular decks of cards, I was never very good
I can't shovel.
Good at
all.
shuffling anyway. So, Well, it's a good thing I didn't ask you to do it.
Oh, this is what I would have done. I would have just spread them all out and then just picked one.
Spread them out.
Spread them all out. Yeah, while you're
okay.
doing that, let me tell them a little bit about what the cards are for
Okay.
and how to do them.
Okay.
So I created them to help people become their true selves. And the power of words is so important, how we use our words, and we can use them positively to create the life we want to have. So I put on their intentions or affirmations, a phrase you could use to help you keep your mind on the point, and a little story kind of thing to explain, how you might want to use it and what the theme might be. And people don't realize how much our words make a difference, and we speak out of habit. We complain and we worry out loud, and we go on and on and on about stuff, and we talk about things we shouldn't necessarily be affirming, because whatever we say is going to bring it to us. But the important thing when we do these things is to feel the emotion that would go with the intention or the affirmation, because that is the energy that I always call it supercharges the words. And we were talking earlier about the book The Secret, and people missed the idea in the book The Secret because people thought you just said the words and whatever you wanted would come to you. So all these people were going around going, I am a millionaire, I am a millionaire. And then they'd go, well, this isn't working. It's like, well, number one, let's be realistic. Number two, at some level, so many of us don't believe we could be a millionaire. So we're blocking it. So the way to kind of circumvent that is to feel what you would feel like if you were a millionaire.
Yeah, or like I cannot see myself wanting to be a millionaire.
Right? So that wouldn't work for you.
I don't want to be that rich.
Yeah, and when we think of millionaire, it comes with all sorts of other feelings and connotations too. These days a millionaire probably isn't that much. Probably a lot of people have enough money in their savings or their tax shelters or whatever it's called, 403Bs and ones and whatever.
Yeah.
They may have a lot in there, maybe are a millionaire, but they don't think of it that way. So yeah, it's interesting.
Money isn't worth what it used to be.
Right.
Did I do this right? Should I have spread them out face down?
No, it doesn't make any difference.
Doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, and then we can do is set the intention that whatever we pull is exactly what people need to hear.
Okay.
It'll be fun.
Whatever card we pull, the affirmation or intention is whatever you need to hear.
Yep.
So, okay, I'm pulling a card, and the affirmation is, beauty is everywhere. The practical step is, I surround myself with beauty. Okay, I will let you take over.
Yes, and you know what is interesting with this is, number one, this brings me back to when I was teaching in the schools.
Oh, there's another one that says, I am beautiful. That's the one that you're thinking of, about your student.
My student who came in and picked it up, and it reminds me of him because, beauty is everywhere. And what happens, kind of like how we speak without thinking, we live our lives without noticing. And if we were to fully be mindful and present in the moments, we would notice the beauty that really is everywhere. And not only our surroundings, not only our physical surroundings, but also the inner beauty we see in other people. And that there is beauty everywhere. And I told somebody the other night in one of my coaching groups, I said, okay, so to get more aware, you walk into your house as though you've never seen it before. And, like maybe you're going to look at a house to buy it, right? You know how that kind of feeling where you go in and you're judging it and you're checking it out.
But go into your own house.
Yes, go into your own house as though you've never seen it before, with the intention, though, of looking for the beautiful things. How many times have we bought little knickknacks or whatever because they were beautiful or so cute?
And now we don't pay
and we
any
don't even
attention
see them
to them
you
anymore.
They've been sitting there for 40 years
and
or
collecting
whatever.
dust.
I was just going to say that, and dusty. And we don't go, oh, this is so pretty, and that's people who actually rotate those things in out are actually helping them become more aware of the beautiful things they have. And even driving, you're driving someplace, we don't pay attention to where we're going, we don't look around. Today I happened to notice the snow on all the trees and how beautiful it looked in the woods. I almost stopped to take a picture because it was so beautiful, and I knew it wouldn't come out well on my phone. But, so the beauty is everywhere if we just pay attention.
Well, I know sometimes if we're driving, if I'm not the one doing the driving and we're out on some country roads or something, the houses that attract my attention are the ones that are really, really old and not necessarily in the best of shape. You know, I don't know why, but I guess you could say that's sort of on the order of finding beauty in them.
Absolutely. And the same thing if you're in the store, you know, one of the big stores, you know how we're in there and we're in a rush, we're not paying attention, we don't really pay attention to other people when we're in there. But if we started to pay more attention, we would see the beauty in the other people as well. There was one time I decided I was going to say hello to everyone I met in the grocery store. I don't know why.
On that day.
Yeah, on that day, this one day, and I went in and I just wanted to see what would happen if I made a point of connecting with people, whether it was just a smile or saying hello, whatever it was. My gosh, I was in that store for hours.
I know.
Hours, because people started telling me all these things. I met some really awesome people. Yeah, I helped some lady find something, you know. So, you know, it was a really good way for me to find that beauty in the other people as well.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I've been out in public somewhere and, you know, would see somebody that, you know, wasn't what you would call attractive. Maybe they were downright homely, you know, and you'd see them, and then maybe you would happen to start having a conversation with the person, and as soon as they opened their mouth and started to talk, you realized they had a really beautiful personality.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, you realize that there was something about this person that you liked them. But up until that moment, they were a total stranger.
Yeah, and life is all about, you know, we talk about the external stuff. You know, we look at things and we judge them. We look at people and we judge them. And really, if we can start to see the beauty within them, it's like we're seeing their soul. You know, we're seeing their inner self, who they really are, their essence, rather than what we assume someone is or just judge them to be. It's amazing. So yes, beauty is everywhere.
Yes,
in so many different layers too. We think of beauty, we always think of the external, like this is a cool tablecloth. I noticed when we sat down, I'm like, is this a new tablecloth or is this your winter version?
Well, it does have snowflakes on it, but I got it at a yard sale in early September.
See?
And I bought it because when I found it, I bought it because I knew that the table I use is round. So I bought this, and for all of the years I've been doing this, I've been using a square-shaped tablecloth that's about this size, but I thought, so now that I have this round tablecloth, now I'm hoping I'm going to run across one that will be appropriate for spring.
See, well, it's pretty, it's beautiful. So set your intention that you'll find the perfect tablecloth for the spring.
Yeah,
It'll probably show up next week.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Okay. Should we go on?
Yeah, let's do another one. Let's see what else we get. It's fun to see what happens.
Okay. Oh. The affirmation is, I am connected to God, and the practical step is, I meditate.
Okay, so now here's the thing. I am connected to God, and I know some people don't like the word God, you know, and so that's just a word. In this case, that represents the divine energy, the universal energy, your higher power, whatever you want to call that.
The creative energy of the
creator,
universe.
the source energy. There's so many different names for this energy. And I think pretty much most people can agree there is some kind of a big energy out there, or else how would we be alive, really?
Yeah, do you think that some people actually think it's an old man up in heaven?
I'm sure some people still do, yes. I'm sure some people still do. And now getting connected to that energy, that divine source energy, whatever, a universal energy, getting connected to that, meditation is one way to get there because it makes us slow down and be still. I have had so many people say to me, well, I don't know how to meditate, it's too hard, because what they heard was you have to empty your minds.
Right? Some people think that your mind, you have a blank mind.
Right.
Your mind is blank.
And you can't, it's very hard to get to that point. So some people will start to meditate and the thoughts come in, and then after a few minutes they give up, but I keep telling people we can have a form of meditation when we're doing other things like driving, or when we're really immersed in something.
Yeah, you can get a mantra that you repeat. There's a certain, like in Siddha Yoga, there's a certain mantra.
Yes.
That if you repeat it, it is supposed to protect you. It's the Om Namah Shivaya mantra. It's supposed to protect you if you really believe it will.
Yes.
So
yes, there's lots of ways to meditate. You can do a chant, you can do a mantra, you can simply go Om, you can simply count your breaths and notice your breaths. If you're totally involved in something creative, you're in a space of meditation, really. And what all this is doing is getting us connected to the stillness within us. And it's connecting, when we're in that stillness, we're more connected to our higher power, our soul energy, our divine, universal, higher self, source people. We're in that space. And how many times, thinking of meditating while we're driving, right? I love driving a long distance because I have the best thoughts pop into my head because it can be very hypnotic and you're kind of trapped. You can't really go anyplace else, you're driving, so your mind finally relaxes. And when our mind relaxes, then other thoughts can come in that can be inspirational or whatever. And so that is actually a form of meditation too. And so sometimes somebody just said this to me the other day, well, I can't empty my mind, so I can't meditate. And,
I was surprised one time. It was one of the first yoga teachers that I ever met. And I mean the spiritual form of yoga, not just doing the exercises, although they're pretty meditative too. But I remember him saying something about counting money could be a meditation. And at first I was kind of shocked. What? Counting money? But it can be if you're really focused on it.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You could focus on a candle. That's an easy way to do that.
One little trick that I learned one time was something about the deep diaphragmatic breathing that you do in yoga. Like I remember reading this somewhere where you could visualize that the breath is coming in and going out through the third eye area in the middle of your forehead. And I found that really energizes. It has a really energizing effect. You are feeling very energetic when you get finished doing it. It's pretty amazing. There's something about the visualizing it coming in through that area.
Yes, and it's like it opens it up even more, so that you are more connected to that energy, Yeah, when I wrote these cards, I'm putting down meditate, I'm really big on how-tos. How do you do something? I don't, we have great experiences, but we don't know how to do it again or whatever. So I'm big on that. And so I wanted to make sure I gave practical steps, something to do. But of course, there's so many other ways you can connect with that source energy. When you connect with other people and you're there for them without sacrificing yourself, is a form of connection.
Right.
Too, being there and helping, taking care of ourselves is also being connected.
Yeah, and being mindful in any of your daily activities is kind of meditative. Like, quite often we're thinking about other things when we're brushing our teeth or washing the dishes or whatever. But mindfulness, I guess that means that you're actually totally focused on the activity that you're involved in. But other times, if you're not being mindful, I've noticed that you almost don't remember that you've done it because you've been thinking about something else while you were doing it, and then you're wondering, did I do a really good job at brushing my teeth? I wasn't really paying that much attention. So you probably know what I mean about that.
Oh gosh, this morning taking my thyroid medicine, I was like, did I take it already or not? I know I thought about it, but did I actually do it? You know, because I wasn't paying attention at all. You know, totally
You were
distracted.
busy because you were getting ready to come to the television studio.
Yeah. I was. Wanted to make sure I was going to be late.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys in the viewing audience, you can try mindfulness or meditation. I don't know. I think meditation actually is more magical than praying, don't you?
Yeah, they both, well, you know, getting into prayer for a minute, so much of how I was brought up was pray for what you want. And then when I started going to spiritualist church, they said prayer is asking, and basically meditation is listening. But we can also have the other kinds of prayer, the gratitude prayers.
Well,
right?
the thing with praying is you're in the consciousness, according to what I learned when I studied metaphysics, you're in the consciousness of not already having that thing that you want or need. With an affirmation, you know, like if you do journaling or something, you know, every day, you can write down that you already have it. Apparently it works better if you believe you already have what it is that you want or
when
need.
You're setting intentions and affirmations, that's what it is. You want to believe you already have it because
because that attracts it to you.
Right, and if you believe it and you know, act as if, like if you're writing an intention for yourself, like you'll notice this is I am connected. I am is very powerful, you know, and back to the I am a millionaire, if that is something that resonates with you and is a goal for you, and you feel that I am means you are that right now, even though you may not believe it totally, you are that. So it is very important to notice how we say things and believe them to be true in the present, even if we have a little bit of doubt.
Yeah. Well, I will draw another card. You know, maybe we can do another episode with the cards and just leave out the ones we've already...
Oh, it's fun to do because it leads me, especially now, I wrote these a while ago, so it's fun. I have not thought about them in years, and to look at how I would view these affirmations right now from a slightly different perspective. A lot of it's the same.
Right. Well, the one I just pulled
I love it.
Is a happiness affirmation. And the last few sentences we've been talking about actually have to do with this, because the affirmation is my thoughts create my reality. And the practical step is I choose happiness.
Yes, and so let's talk about my thoughts create my reality first, because sometimes people get really worried about that. You know, we have those passing thoughts that just are fleeting through our head.
The things that we're worried about. Worry that something might happen.
And those are fleeting thoughts. And people sometimes take this statement, my thoughts create my reality, as that I'm going to create all this negative stuff around me. Now, if we infuse it with a bunch of energy and we worry so much about something happening, that could create it, right? It could create it. But going to the next part, the I choose happiness, we have a choice in how we view our lives. We can choose happiness, even if we have crap going on around us. We can still do that. And you know how it is when we have a problem, what happens? It infiltrates every part of our lives. Every part, and that's all we think about. This is happening, and I wish it wasn't happening. And if we recognize we do have the power to choose the happiness, we can move in a new direction. This never means that we ignore the other emotions. So if we are unhappy, we must feel that unhappiness, because maybe there's a message in it, or maybe it's just we need to release the unhappiness. Maybe something has happened and we are unhappy. So we still want to feel those emotions, but what we don't want to do is get stuck in the unhappiness, where that's where we're repeating ourselves all the time with the mindless words. You know, so we can choose happiness, we can choose the joy, we can choose a more positive perspective. And it takes practice, especially for some of us who have been stuck in complaining our whole lives, you know.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You know, with some people, it becomes such a habit that it's all they ever do is complain and worry.
Yes. Did I ever tell you about the guy I worked with once? So I had a guy I worked with a while ago, a long time ago. He complained all the time. I mean, all the time. And then I caught myself complaining about his complaining and realized I was also complaining all of the time.
Because of him.
Because he was complaining. And I noticed it, and I'm like, geez, he complains so much. And I was complaining so much about him that he actually was reflecting back to me as something I needed to become aware of, that I was complaining so much. So that of course leads me into anytime somebody irritates you, look at them, and whatever they're irritating you with, you probably do it too, and they're just trying to show you something you need to become aware of. So that's just a little side trip for us for a second there. But yes, we are so unaware of the words we say.
I know. I really think of it when I get a negative reaction from somebody to something I've said, and it's like, and it might not be anything negative that I said, but it's something that I believe in, and they don't, and so I get it, and then it's like, when will I ever learn to keep my mouth shut?
Well, being intentional, right? Use the words you want to use with the people you want to use them with. Our words do create magic. They really do. And they can also create misery if we're not aware.
Okay, well, I'm going to grab another.
Let's see what else we got. It's fun to see. There's there's connections between all of them.
Yeah,
which is
I
fun
know.
to see how that goes.
I see that. Another thing, after you gave these to me, the thing that I would notice was when I was wanting to pull an affirmation card for myself at home, in the morning, it would be like the same, maybe half a dozen ones that I would pull out over and over and over again, So I figured it must be things that I really, really need to work on myself about. So
yes, and it's funny because so many people, especially when they're starting their metaphysical journey, and their spiritual journey, they like the cards, and there's so many card decks out there. And
there's
so many different kinds.
I've seen mail order catalogs on metaphysical stuff, and there is a lot.
There really is. And I find it is really true that when you pull the one out and you go, oh, here we are, I guess I need to know this one, and it does make sense. Trust it.
Okay, you just used the word trust. And this is the trust card.
Love it.
The affirmation is, I trust. The practical step is, I look for the meaning behind negative situations.
Ah, yes. Yes, that is a good one. Trust is huge. It's huge. For people who are on that spiritual path, and there are quite a few of them now, especially, people are really waking up to this idea that there is more to life than the physical. And if we think about, if you have any kind of religious or spiritual belief systems, if you believe in a higher power, if you believe in that source energy, if we can choose to trust that we are guided with that, if we can choose to trust that our path is being led to where it needs to be, I always say that everything that happens to me is there to help me become the best version of myself. So that's what this card is about, finding the meaning behind negative situations. And what happens with this, and if I were going to do this one again, I'd probably change this up a little bit. But if we're trusting that everything is happening for a reason, that means something that has happened in your life is teaching you something. Sometimes people don't like this idea, things happen for a reason, because they invariably go to, well, my friend died, and there's no reason that should have happened. Okay, well, let's just look at the facts of life. We are born, we die. Okay, so we can't change that. So
it has to be that way.
It is this. It is the way it is. So, but through someone passing, you might learn something about yourself, or you might have an experience where other people come to you and help you, and you learn so much that through that experience that you can trust these other people, and you start to recognize that you're actually trusting that whatever is happening is leading you to something. you know, some version of yourself. And so anything that's going on, if we look deeper at it, what's underneath it? You know, what can I learn from the situation? And sometimes we have really horrible, traumatic situations. And that may be the only way you can learn self-compassion, self-forgiveness. Might be the only way you can learn to forgive someone else, which doesn't mean you approve of what has happened or anything. It just means you're going to let go of that negative energy and make sure it's not affecting you anymore. So there's so many different ways to trust the process of life, to trust that you're guided, to trust spirit or the God energy. So much there.
I think the reason some people have a problem with trust is because they've been betrayed by various different people at some point in time in their lives, and it causes them to have trouble being able to trust others.
Absolutely. And this is when, you know, when people have had those horrible experiences are so traumatic and painful, where of course we want to find a licensed professional counselor to help us. You know, my saying, oh, trust that you're going to get something out of it, they're going to like tell me to something else. Because it's like, you don't understand, Colleen, that's way too hard to do. And I get it, you know, I get it, because it wasn't that long ago I would have been in that same mindset, you know, where I would have been, no way, I'm not going to learn anything out of this because I'm way too upset about it to learn anything about it. But if we can open our minds up just a little bit to the idea that it is possible to trust that there is something underneath that can help us, that might be enough to help people see it when they're ready to see it.
When they're ready to see it. Okay. Everything, the affirmation is, everything I need is within. And the practical step is, I listen to my inner being.
Yes. What that means is check in with yourself. See what you're really feeling. See what you're really thinking. See what's inside you that is helping you make decisions. We, again, live without thought. It's the same thing. When I was growing up, no one ever said to me, check in with yourself. How are you really feeling? Nobody ever said that. And it took me, 40-something years before I finally realized that I actually could do that, because I was so involved and stressed out about meeting everybody else's expectations of me. And what that means is, instead of looking outward for guidance, and that doesn't mean we don't get teachers or people to help us along our way, of course, because that's the fastest way to learn. But everything we need is within, so we listen to ourselves. So I tell people, when you're getting up in the morning, we are checking in with ourselves, but we're not aware of it. We're checking in with ourselves when we decide what we're going to wear in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
We do it without thinking. So we are doing it already. What we don't do usually is check in with ourselves on some of the bigger things, or how we respond or react to something. Something bad happens, we don't check in and go, how am I really feeling, and why am I feeling that way? Is it because this person's just a real jerk, or are they triggering me and my feeling that I'm not good enough? But the more we play with checking in with ourselves, even eating is huge, right?
Oh, yeah, if you're not paying attention when you're eating, you could choke.
Yes,
I mean,
literally, right?
literally,
And the
yeah.
foods you choose to eat. It's back to the mindfulness thing. You know, we check in with ourselves. Should I eat this? Does my body want me to eat this? And if I check in with myself right before I'm going to have that pound of M&Ms, my body should say,
oh, yeah.
no,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah,
if
really.
I'm paying attention and it says no, and I'm really going to honor my inner wisdom, my inner guidance, my inner self, that means I'm not going to eat that pound of M&Ms.
Wow, that's a lot of M&Ms, a whole pound.
That's what I used to do when I was younger.
Did you really?
It was horrible. I was in my 20s, and I'm talking younger, in my 20s, and probably before that as well. I could eat a whole pound of M&Ms
Wow,
in
that's
one day, no problem. I can't believe it. I can't believe I just didn't like have the sugar, whatever the bad, when you get way too much sugar, where they pass out or something. I don't know. Surprised I didn't have that.
And you didn't gain a lot of weight from doing it?
Nothing. I could eat anything I wanted. It was horrible. I went on a cupcake diet once and had cupcakes for like 2 days straight. That's all I ate. I was such a horrible eater. I had quite the sweet tooth.
Well, I remember you mentioned in your book, Courageously You, something about you and your daughter went and bought cupcakes.
Finding the cupcakes. Yes, I try to follow, like if I see something that interests me, I try to follow it. And we were driving and saw a sign for cupcakes, and we thought, oh, this will be fun. It was a really long drive, and we thought, well, we'll break it up a little bit. We stopped, couldn't find the place for anything. Finally stopped at some kind of a welcome center, and they told us we had to go by these back alleys everywhere, and finally got there. Cute little shop, the worst cupcakes I've ever had in my whole life. They were disgusting. And we'd spend a half hour trying to find these cupcakes.
Oh my gosh. And they were the worst you'd ever had.
They were horrible.
Well, my sister told me a similar story one time. When she was alive, her husband is a minister, and when she was alive, what is that beekeeper's name? The one that was on 60 Minutes that one time. Dave Hackenberg's mother, and was a member of their church. And one time she made some muffins and gave the muffins to them. And my sister, just out of politeness, ate one every day until they were gone, but she said they were the worst muffins ever, and they always made her stomach feel sick after she'd eat one. And so anyway, the next time she saw Mrs. Hackenberg, she was like, how did you like those muffins that I gave you? And my sister, out of politeness, told her, they were pretty good. And so the lady goes, those were the worst muffins I ever made. They turned out so,
Oh, good. So I thought you were going to say that she made her more. And that's an example, right? Now, if you're eating something and you're having a reaction to it, and you check in with yourself, you go, wait a minute, every time I have this, I'm having a reaction. Again, mindful, aware, then maybe I shouldn't have this anymore. And then we honor that feeling. So listening to that inner being is honoring the feeling and taking action on it, not just going, oh yeah, I know I'm not supposed to have those M&Ms or muffins, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. I know. Sometimes if you know something has a flavor that you like, and you really know you shouldn't keep eating it, it can be hard to keep yourself from doing it when you get around something like that.
Yes.
It's like I can't. Vinegar does not agree with me. It's like I can't just. If I'm going to eat a pickle, it's got to be sandwiched between bread or something, to tone down the vinegar. Because if I put a juicy enough vinegary food in my mouth, I can choke to death on it. For there's something about vinegar, it for some reason gets in my airway, and I literally can't breathe or anything, and then somebody has to do the Heimlich maneuver.
See, well, you're listening to your body and knowing not to do that.
Yeah. So, and that's pretty scary, not being able to breathe all
Very
of a
much
sudden, So
yes, it's good to breathe. We like breathing.
So anyways, what was that?
This was the Everything I Need Is Within.
Oh yeah,
I listen to my inner being.
Well, I guess I don't really need vinegary foods, do I?
Yeah.
No. So
yeah, you can get a lot of guidance from your inner self. Mm-hmm. You really can if we just pay attention.
Yes.
I guess our theme today is turning into mindfulness.
Yeah, it is.
Mindfulness and being aware.
Oh, detachment. The affirmation is, I release. The practical step is, I write my desire and release it. Yeah, there's something towards the end of the full description here I want blank or something better, then save, burn, or bury the paper. The physical act of writing and releasing signifies your trust in a positive outcome.
Yes. I'd change a little of that too, but not too much of it. What happens is so many times we want something, we're really focused on it. And we're focused on it to such an extent that we can't see other opportunities that pop up, you know, and if we want something, okay, let's say we want a really awesome vacation to Hawaii.
Oh, gosh.
You know, and we talk about the thoughts creating reality and manifestation stuff. We focus on it, we visualize it, we feel it, we put all that stuff in there. We want to go to Hawaii, we want to go to Hawaii. It's all we're thinking about. And then...
That sounds like the Burt family that works here at the television
Oh, they
studio.
like the Hawaii?
Yeah, they do.
It's one of my bucket list goals, so it is going to happen in my life. But so we focus on this to the exclusion that we don't recognize when all of a sudden we have an opportunity to maybe go to the Dominican Republic with a really awesome place there. So what we want to do is set our intentions, our goals, our dreams, but also keep our mind open for something better. You know, if I think the only way to get from here to there is this, I might miss this side adventure that's going to lead me to something even better.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so the act of writing things down is really important for many reasons. When we write things down, we believe they're true, hence fake news. Anything that's written down, people are believing, whether or not they've researched it and checked it or not. But if we write it down about ourselves, so, you know, I'm going to Hawaii next year. Okay, then we set it there, and then we release it, which means we stop fixating on it. We still might take action. If we know we want to go on this trip, we might have to still save money. We might still have to Google and figure out where we're going. But while we're Googling, we might find something else that really grabs our interest even more, which could also lead you there. Now, for a really strange way of getting there, if I want to go to Hawaii now, what if someone calls me up and wants me to do a workshop in Hawaii? You can believe I'm going to make that happen as fast as possible. So I might get there in a different way than I think as well. So releasing, what we're doing is releasing the fixation where it kind of blinds us and we have tunnel vision and we can't see other opportunities that are there. Yeah. I would actually call it non-attachment rather than detachment these days. So non-attachment is we don't have the energetic, emotional connection that's really fixating us. Non-attachment, we want that, but we're open.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love. I love myself is the affirmation. The practical step is I list 50 things I love about myself. You know, I think I actually could come up with that. Maybe not when I was younger and other people were telling me negative things about myself and I didn't know any better because I hadn't studied metaphysics yet, you know, and
Right.
like that. But, you know, when you get past that, where you're listening to what other people think, then you start noticing things. You go to learn something and you notice that you learned it really quickly, or you know, just or maybe you learned it just from learned how to do something from a book, even without even having to have the physical presence of a teacher or something. You know, things like that. You know, you just
Yes. And we've been programmed and conditioned to be certain people, to meet those expectations to others, so we fit in and belong, all of that stuff. So what happens is we end up hiding some parts of ourselves because maybe they're not acceptable in other people's eyes, or maybe we think they're not acceptable enough to show to other people. So we hide parts of ourselves. That all ends up becoming part of that voice of our inner critic that, you know, loves to beat ourselves up and tell us we're not good enough. And everybody has a bit of that in them. I have not met anybody yet. And even the really egotistical people The reason they're really egotistical is because they're insecure and they don't love themselves in the good way.
And then they kind of brag about themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known people who've made up stories about themselves to look like a more interesting and cool person.
Yes.
You know, yeah.
And so a lot of people have some insecurities in there. So loving ourselves, you know, everybody's like, oh, that's such a new agey thing, you know, love yourself. But really, it's essential if we want to live the best life possible. And what that means really is that we honor our truth, we speak our truth, we take care of ourselves, we practice some self-care. If our bodies or our inner being says, don't do that, we love ourselves enough to not do it. This exercise in here, I list 50 things I love about myself. I do that with all of my coaching clients, all of my coaching groups. I do it all the time because for many people, it is really hard to come up with 50 things they love about themselves. You can start out and they go, well, what do you mean? You know, exactly. What do you mean at loving yourself? So I always tell people qualities. I love that I'm persistent, I'm dedicated, I'm a hard worker. I love that I'm there for other people, whatever it might be. And usually what happens, they get to about 14, 20, or sometimes 2 or 3, but 14 or 20, and then they feel stuck. I can't think of anything else that's good about me.
Yeah, that is a pretty long list, 50 things.
50. You know, first time I did it was 100. I don't know what I was thinking.
It was
100 instead of 50. I don't know what I was thinking.
Wow.
I was overly optimistic back then.
Yeah.
Until I tried to do it myself, and I could not get to 100. And then I thought, I think this is too much. So 50 is good, and people don't have to reach 50. But once they get stuck, that's the valuable time, because then they have to dig deep to see what else is in there, and also they start to discover the words or the qualities they want to have but don't think they have.
Oh.
And so when I'm working with a coaching group, I'll say, which ones make you cringe a little bit? Where you go, I'm not really that. People will say, I'm not loving. I'm like, how are you not loving? You know, how is that? Well, I was really mean to this person the other day. I said, that was one thing. Does that mean truly that you're not loving? No, it doesn't feel right. And then I go, star that one, circle that one. That is the one that you really need to work with. I am loving. And the more people will play with something like that, I am loving, the more they'll have opportunities to practice being loving, but they'll also start switching it back on themselves and start loving themselves more too.
Well, you know, I met somebody last summer. She is a woman that makes sterling silver jewelry, and she calls her business Love Yourself with Jewelry.
Nice.
Because she, and you know, I was asking, well, it just happens that her last name is Joyful, and I said, well, you could have just called your business Joyful Jewelry, and she goes, yes, but most women don't actually love themselves.
Right.
And that's why she calls it Love Yourself with Jewelry. I remember having a conversation with her about it, and then I remembered something that I had heard many years ago when I was very young, was that Hitler, the Nazi Hitler, was part Jewish. He had like a Jewish grandparent or something, so he had some Jewishness in himself, and yet he was trying to annihilate the entire Jewish population. Does this mean that he didn't love himself?
It's an interesting thought, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I'd heard it with that you know, he didn't get into art school. And
he didn't get into art
school. He wanted to be an artist and get into art school. And you know, a lot of times when people are angry about something, they're disappointed in themselves, and they're angry at themselves that they weren't good enough. And I wonder, and this is pure speculation, if Hitler was somehow angry at grandparents or something for not being there for him or something like that. And so you know how things warp in our minds, and obviously things were warped in there for him to be
definitely,
like this.
definitely.
Yeah.
You would think that anybody who would do the horrible things that he did would be at least have some mental illness going on.
Absolutely.
Too.
And and there are obviously with people who are mentally ill and or have personality disorders and things like this, it may be a very, very big struggle to love themselves, in a healthy way. It's a big one. And sometimes when people are struggling with loving themselves, I say to them, give yourself permission to love yourself. Because at some level, we don't feel it's right to love ourselves. Maybe that's thinking of ourselves too smugly or boasting or something, and it's not.
No.
At all. And sometimes people think that.
It's perfectly okay to love yourself. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right. And it's hard because people think loving ourselves means we're going to only look out for ourselves and no one else, which isn't the case.
Be selfish.
Yes, and the selfish, is a big trigger, especially for women. Self-care is not selfish, I say all the time. Mm-hmm. And loving ourselves is not selfish. It's honoring ourselves. We're living our lives. If we're not happy in this life, what can we do to change it is what it boils down to. Mm-hmm. And loving ourselves is going to make a huge difference because I know if I really want to go to Hawaii, and that's going to make me happy, and it's a long-held dream, then if I love myself enough, then I'm going to make it happen. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start taking action for it. Or maybe it's if I love myself enough to take off a day from work because I'm just so tired and I just can't today. That's okay too. Lots of different ways it shows up.
My original plan was to go through all 52 of these. Today it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I told her that wasn't going to happen.
We've only got 6.5 minutes left.
And there's a lot to say about each card, and we've done a lot.
I know.
Though. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 7.
Yeah. 7 is one number that I've had a lot of good luck with, and believe it or not, 13 is one that I've had good luck with.
Nice.
Whenever I had to take a test in school when I was a kid, on Friday the 13th, I'd always get a 100 on it.
So, that's funny.
So go explain that to the people that think Friday the 13th is an unlucky day. But anyway, this one says, I listen to my inner self.
Very similar.
And the practical step is I focus on my desires. One that we've already pulled today is the
practical step was I listen to my inner being.
Yeah.
So, and there's definitely a theme here.
Yeah.
And the whole theme that's coming out really is being mindful about ourselves and paying attention to ourselves. We are in this gigantic, huge consciousness shift. Did we talk about that last year?
At some point in time we have.
We are in this gigantic shift. And it's happening everywhere. People, whether they believe in a consciousness shift or not, doesn't make any difference because it's happening around them and they're being dragged into it, whether or not they want it. Mm-hmm. And all that means is that the consciousness of the world is trying very hard to be better, operate from the love perspective, love and kindness and peace, rather than the fear-based thoughts. And so what's happening now is people are learning that they themselves individually are so important. People think one person, needs to start a foundation to make a difference, or I need to do this and this and this. But we don't, because one person at a time, we make a difference.
Yeah, we're doing things. We're doing things for other people, and we're doing good things all the time. It's just that we're not getting famous for it.
Right, and maybe we don't want it. And maybe it's not necessary. And part of this shift is literally going to be the ripple effect from one person to the next. No big organization is going to save us. No government is going to save us. Nobody's going to save us except ourselves, each and every one, choosing to live from the love, the light, from kindness, from peace, positive qualities.
Yeah. If you spend too much time listening to the news, you wind up thinking that that most people are horrible and they mistreat each other. But in reality, it's just that the news media tends to focus on the negative stuff. like my metaphysics teacher years ago saying something about that. He said, you always hear about the person that was murdered while they were on their way to work, but they never say millions made it safely.
Right. It has to get our attention. It's kind of like when every Tuesday I send out an Intention Tuesday email. And so I put an intention in there, how to do it, it's a story of some point, in there. So Intention Tuesday. So then I have to come up with a subject line to get people to open the email. And I actually did one once called I Hate Myself.
Oh, no.
As the subject line. And I'm sure it was probably I love myself was the intention, something along that line, right? I had the biggest open rates on that because so many people related to hating themselves.
Oh my gosh.
People responded to the email, how did you know? It's like you're talking to me. And I just put it in there because it kind of went with what I was talking about. I didn't do it intentionally thinking that so many people hated themselves. It was really eye-opening to me how many people are struggling with their self-perception. Yeah, scary stuff.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm going to pull just one more because that's all we have time for.
Yeah, we'll see if Colleen can keep it short.
Forgiveness.
Oh, perfect.
That fits in really good with the rest of the ones we've pulled today. We're just going to have to do another episode so we can do some more of the cards. I let go and forgive. The practical step is I write a letter of forgiveness.
Yes. So many times people get stuck on forgiveness because I can't forgive you because you did this horrible thing to me. Or I can't forgive me because I did these horrible things
and
before.
wish I hadn't now.
Right?
Yeah.
And all forgiveness means, to simplify it as much as possible, is that we're letting go of that energy that is making us feel horrible. And there's lots of different ways. Greg and I actually do a forgiveness workshop in Zion Canyon National Park area.
Oh, do you?
Every November. He's been doing it for 22 years or something. And, and I said to him, people don't want to come to a forgiveness workshop, but he call it something else. But he's like, nope, we're calling it this. But people come and they have these huge transformations as they release the pain, basically, from whatever's happened and recognize how important it is to let that go. Writing a letter is this action step, as you write a letter to whoever. I forgive you for this, I forgive you for that. And as we do that, what we're basically doing is just doing a dump and getting rid of stuff that's we're holding on to. But we have to make the choice to forgive. We have to decide we're going to do it, and we have to be ready for it. If we're really, 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 really angry, it's probably not today. So we got to process those emotions some more.
And sometimes some of the things that people have done to each other are really horrible.
Yes, and we would call them unforgivable.
Right.
But the forgiveness is letting go of the anger and the pain. This does not mean we accept or approve of what's happened.
Right.
We definitely are not accepting or approving, and we can still use that information and never let them do whatever to us again. And we don't have to be near them again either.
Right, right.
So forgiveness is really all about us letting go of our pain so that we are not living with that weight dragging around our neck. Because those people, if somebody's done something horrible to us, they're probably off someplace having a margarita, as Greg likes to say. They're probably off someplace having a margarita, not thinking about you at all. And here you are spending all your energy thinking about them. Like, why would you want to do that? You're wasting your space and your mind.
Or sometimes people come up with ideas where they want to get revenge or something.
Right?
So,
yeah, that's not really living from the love.
So gosh, this has been so much fun. I can't believe how fast this hour went. I think it's the fastest one of these interviews has ever gone. Or I'd swear time goes faster on sometimes than others, but I'm afraid we've come to the end of another episode of Fresh Perspectives. Thank you again for agreeing to appear on Fresh Perspectives.
Yeah, thanks for letting us play with these and see what came out here.
Yeah, it was fun, wasn't it?
It really was.
It was like playing a game in a way. And I'll see those of you in the viewing audience when I do the next episode.